Okay. 2 more minutes though. Okay, let's do 3 Oms and Sahanavatu. Sahanavavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Saha viryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu mavid vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Guru Stotram. Akhanda mandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshu militam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sthabaram Jangamam Vyaptam, Yatkinchis Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darsitam Yena, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam vyapiyat sarvam trailokyam sacharacharam tatpadam darsitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva vidya dravidam tvameva sarvam amadeva deva. Tvameva sarvam Gurudeva Deva. Hari Om. We are doing Atmabodha. Last time we stopped at Sloka 40. Let's chant the Sloka. Rupa varnadhikam sarvam Rupavarnadhikam sarvam vihaya paramarthavitu paripurna chidananda swarupena vatishthate. Together. Rupavarnadhikam sarvam vihaya paramarthavitu paripurna chidananda swarupena vatishthate. So Shankaracharya trying to say we had to meditate sitting on one place, vivikta desa asinaha, without any attachments, viraga, vijitendriyaha, having conquered our indriya, sense organs, bhavayet ekam atmanam. One has to meditate on single-pointedly on that self or oneness alone, and that is also is called bhakti. In the Vivekachudamani it says, moksha sadhana samadhyam bhaktireva gariyasi. Bhakti is the supreme, and swaswarupa anusandhanam bhaktirichabhidiyate. So what is that bhakti? So is contemplation on one's own self. So bhavayet ekam atmanam tam anantam ananyadhihi. Without any thought other than the self, one has to contemplate on the self, that is anantam, that is infinite. And also has to see Atmaniyeva Akilam Drusyam. This is in the Sloka 39. Atmaniyeva Akilam Drusyam Pravilapya Dhiya Sudhihi Bhavayet Ekam Atmanam Nirmala Akasha Vatsada. So Atmaniyeva Akilam Drusyam, everything that I see in this world is nothing but self alone, or in the self alone, or by the self alone. And Pravilapya, so discarding whatever seen as superficial entities as the Nama Rupa and recognizing the essence of it is what is involved in Pravilapanam. And using Dhiya, using the Buddhi by Sudhihi, those who are contemplative seekers, Bhavayet Ekam Atmanam, one has to contemplate on oneness of the Atma. Nirmala Akashavat Sada, that which is Nirmalam Akashavat, which is without any impurities, all pervading and clean, and that is eternally pure, that is present, and that Atma and has to be contemplated. Where Rupa Varnadikam Sarvam Vihaya Paramartha Vitu Paripurna Chidananda Swarupena Vatisthate. So those who are contemplating on that, recognizing that all the Rupa Varna, Sabdasparsa Rupa Varnadi, Adhikam, every Sarvam, everything else is only superficial entities, so discarding them, recognizing the Paramartham, the absolute substratum that is pervading everywhere, that is the supreme, and knowing that Devi Paripurna Chidanandaha Swarupena, that is my nature is Param Purnam and Chidananda Swarupam, and they get established on that. That's where we stopped last time. We'll start with this Sloka 41. Jnatru-jnana-jneya bhedaha Jnatru-jnana-jneya bhedaha Parenatmani vidyate Parenatmani vidyate Chidanandaika rupatvad Chidanandaika rupatvad Dipyati swayamevahi Dipyati swayamevahi. Together. Jnatru jnana jneya bhedaha Parenatmani vidyate Chidanandaika rupatvad Dipyati swayamevahi. Jnatu jnana jneya bhedaha. So here we have the knower, Jnatruhu, Jnanam, the knowledge, Jneyam, object of knowledge. So any knowledge involves, or any experience involves Triputi. That means there are three factors that come into picture. Says in the experience, there is an experiencer, experienced, and experiencing. In the knower and a known, and the knowledge itself, or the pramana. So in every aspect there is always three aspects that are called Triputi, or triad, and there is, therefore the knower is different from a known, and knower and known are different from knowing principle. So there is always a bedham, differences exist in this Triputi, and that's why there are three triads are there, but they are only superficial entity, and all are the superficial entities are nothing to do with Atma. What is that? Pare na Atmani vidyate. So, Pare na Atmani vidyate. They are only superficial entities, but what is the substratum is the Atma, the self, that the pure existence that I am. And having known that, one discards all this because they are not in the essence of Atma. They are only superficial entities. And having recognized the essence that pervades the Jnatru Jnana Jneyam, the knower and the knowledge and the object of knowledge, what is there is pure consciousness and the existent consciousness that happens in the every knowledge. And Pare Atmani Vidyate. So it's not on the original consciousness itself. They are only Nama Rupa only. Consciousness is Chidananda Eka Rupatvam. Chidananda Eka Rupatvam. It is Chit Chit Anandam Ekam and Ekameva Advitiyam, that which is of the nature of consciousness and limitless, and therefore that is Ekarupam, it is its Swarupam, it is its intrinsic nature, and it shines by itself, Deepyate Swayamevahi, by itself, eva alone. So essentially, in every knowledge, in every experience, we are seeing these three: the knower, known, and the knowledge, or the seer, seen, and the knowledge of seeing, or experiencer, experienced, and experiencing. Therefore, in all our transactions, vyavahara, so all these three will be there all the time. So, using the same three, I had to recognize that the presence of the existence and consciousness that is pervades the knower, known, and the knowledge, experiencer, experience, and the experiencing. So how is this done? Because as we discussed before, in the epistemologically, the knowledge takes place when the senses perceive an object and forms a vritti in the mind, and the vritti has to be revealed by the reflected consciousness, light of consciousness that falls, and that is, I am the subject, I am the light of consciousness, and I illumine this vritti that is formed, and the vritti, as contents of the vritti, is nothing but the object outside, or jnaya vastu, that which is to be known. And therefore, all that process involves consciousness subject and illumining and consciousness joining with the existence of the object for me to be conscious of the existence of the object. And that understanding involves there is nothing but consciousness only that I am seeing in terms of any seer seeing principle. The same way, jnatru, jnana, jnaya bhedaha, knower, knowledge, and objective knowledge involves the knowing principle that I am, and whatever is known or unknown is known to me. So I don't know certain things that I know. I know certain things that I know. But I am the knowing principle beyond the known and the unknown. And therefore, known and the unknowns are essentially superficial. And I am essentially Atma. And in me or on me, there is none of the known and the unknown. And I am pure Chit Ananda Eka Rupatvam. My nature is pure consciousness that is all pervading, because it's Ekam, it is infinite, and it is Anandam, it is limitless, and therefore that is Aham Brahmasmi, is my nature. And it is Deepyate, it shines by itself. I don't need another light to see. So there is no need for illuminating the light for me to see, therefore light itself is self-shining. And this is of the nature of consciousness, therefore it shines swayameva, by itself alone. And therefore it is self-revealing also. And that is my nature. Says Shankara. So this has to be contemplated. So here the Shankara is emphasizing the contemplation on the nature of the Atma, and what is the nature of the Atma is being specified in each sloka. Now we'll do sloka 42. Evam atmaranau dhyana, evam atmaranau dhyana, madhane satatam kruti, mathani satatam kruti, udita vagatir jwala, udita vagatir jwala, sarvajnanindhanam dahet, sarvajnanindhanam dahet. Tagada? Evam atmaranau dhyana, mathani satatam kruti, udita vagatir jwala, sarvajnanindhanam dahet. Evam Atma Aranau Dhyana Madhani Sadatam Kruti. So here what you had to do in order to recognize myself, that I am Satchidananda Swarupam and that is my nature, has to be recognized through process of meditation. It's specified. Evam. In this way, by contemplating on that, in the previously, Bhavayedi Ekam Atmanam. That's one has to contemplate on that alone. That evam, in this way, Atmanam, on that Atma. This is Arano. Arano is a wooden cup, and they used to make a fire in olden days in the yajna, where they have a cup and there is a stick, they keep churning it, and due to friction, the heat generated, and they will put a small cotton, and the heat is sufficient to start fire in the cotton. But I am is always there, because it starts with I am and everything else, and all my transactions are I am transacting, I am doing, I am getting, I am sleeping, I am dreaming, I am deep sleeping, and all that is only I am is always there, and states keep changing, transactions keep changing. From the birth to death, I am there all the time. So it is satatam praptaha, it's eternally present. But I am still searching for myself, because what I think is myself is not what it is, whereas the scripture tells me that you are not what you think you are, but you are Satchidananda Swarupam. And the obstruction is, I do not know that. There is an ignorance, and that ignorance has to be destroyed by proper means, and therefore all that 4 miles is running necessary to discover that 4 miles of running is not necessary. The same way, the Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyasanam and all the Karma Yoga, all are necessary until one discovers that everything is not necessary, because I am self-living. I am there all the time, eternally present. So I was, I am, and I will be. So I am Nitya Mukta Swarupaha. Even though when I think I am not, I was actually pure, liberated Aham Brahma all the time. But that has to be understood by a process of knowledge involving a pramana. So let's do 45. Sthano Purushavad Bhrantya, Sthano Purushavad Bhrantya, Kruta Brahmani Jivata, Kruta Brahmani Jivata, Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, Tasmin Drushte Nivartate, Tasmin Drushte Nivartate. Together. Sthano Purushavad Bhrantya, Kruta Brahmani Jivata, Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, Tasmin Drushte Nivartate. So sthana is in the post. So where there is a post, and in the due to semi-darkness, there is enough light, but not enough light to see clearly that there is a post there. But we see something standing there with the neck down and holding that light post, and one gets frightened, says it may be a ghost or it may be a person standing there. Purushavat is assumed. Bhranti means error in the perception. Because of delusion, I see that there is a person standing there, where actually it is sthani. It is actually the post. So I am mistaking that what is there is a post, when there is actually what is there is a person. Actually, what is there in the place is the post, and or I can purusha, or it can be a ghost, and there is a bhranti. So bhranti is essentially Brahma. Brahma is error in perception. Brahma means knowledge. Brahma means error, wrong knowledge, invalid knowledge. So what is valid knowledge and what is invalid knowledge? Valid knowledge occurs by a pramana, by a means of knowledge, by pramana, I get a valid knowledge. Valid knowledge is that knowledge which is not negated, which is not dismissed by subsequently. So therefore, when I say it is a rope, and I see it is a rope, and if I put a light also it is still a rope, and it is all the time rope that I see, then it is a valid knowledge. It is not negated by other process. Whereas if I see it is a snake and somebody else there, it is not a snake, it is a rope, because the light is not sufficient for me to distinguish whether it is a rope or a snake, then I mistake it as a snake, and only the notion of snake remains. But for me, when I'm seeing it as a snake, it is a prama, it is a valid knowledge, because I know it is only a snake, not a rope. Unless someone else tell me that it is not a snake, but it is a rope. And we can argue, only way to prove whether it is a rope or a snake is I need another means to throw light on it to have the reveal what is the exact nature of the object. When I throw using a torchlight, then I see it is what? In fact, not a snake, but a rope. So what happened to the snake? Snake is Bhranti. Bhranti means it is only an illusory projection. So here, this example is very important, because in the rope snake example, in the case of a rope and a snake, where I am projecting the snake, that example is given in the Bhashya, the Adhyasa Bhashya by Shankara, and there it's pointed out that the objection comes into picture. Says, in order for me to see a snake where the rope is, there has to be a snake somewhere. So I should have the knowledge of snake there, and that snake knowledge is now projecting here where the rope is. Now why am I projecting the snake here? Because there is some analogy. It's called the sadrishyam. Sadrishyam means there is similarity between the rope and the snake. And the attributes of the rope and the snake are somewhat similar to some extent. And I am only seeing only those attributes that that cannot distinguish between the snake and the rope. It can be snake or it can be rope, because those are the attributes I see, because there is not enough light to give me all the attributes of the objects there. Therefore, because the means of knowledge is not complete, I am only getting a partial attributes from which mind makes a judgment. I think it is a snake because I have the samskara, that means I have the knowledge of, prior knowledge of how a snake looks like. Has to be a real snake? It need not be a real snake. It can be another false snake that I have seen before, or in the pictures or movies where I can projecting here. But here, sthano purushavada, if it is a ghost on the post, so ghost, there is no real ghost, and there is only imaginary ghost, I can still project it on the sthani, on the pillar, on the post, and therefore the object need not be real. Another unreal object or another imaginary object can be projected and get mistaken as there is there when I project a ghost where the post is. So that is called Bhranti. That is called Bhranti only because when I come to know by close examination that it is not in fact a ghost, but in fact it is a post. So what happened to the ghost? The ghost knowledge is dismissed, but post knowledge is replaced by the ghost knowledge, and therefore ghost knowledge is replaced by the post knowledge. So real knowledge comes, that becomes a pramana. But even all this that I see in this world, even the pramana that I see, is only Bhranti from the point of absolute. Because what is there is only the absolute Brahman, and the rest is only relative, which is only nama rupa, and therefore I am getting carried away with the names and forms without recognizing the essence of the whole world. So in that sense, it is a Bhranti. And here that example is given to illustrate Brahmani Jivata. In the consciousness, in the all-pervade Brahman, Jivata, that is the Jiva, the notion of I am the Jiva. So who is making a notion of I am a Jiva? So when I say I am this, I am that, and I am so and so, all that is I am this, I am a subject, and this is object, and I am taking the object as a subject, and that confusion comes because I do not have a clear understanding of who I am. What is I am? Is I am existent consciousness, and according to the Vedanta, the consciousness is Brahman, Prajnanam Brahma. So whenever the consciousness is, there has to be Brahman, or that has to be Brahman. So Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havihi, Brahma Agnyo, Brahma Nahutam, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. So where the leader is Brahman, the Havis is Brahman, the whole instruments are Brahman, and the Karta is Brahman, the Karma is Brahman, and Karma Phala is also Brahman. So there is nothing other than Brahman, but I take individually as this is the ladle and this is a Havis, and so on and so forth, because of differentiating it only because of the notional understanding, because I do not know the actual truth behind it. So just as I do not know it is a rope, and that ignorance of my rope is projecting the snake there. So non-apprehension of the reality makes misapprehension, and the misapprehension is done by the mind, and therefore I project the plurality. But once I understand, once I have apprehended, or once I have the knowledge of the absolute truth, Brahmani, so Jivasya Tattvike Rupe, if once I understand what is my true nature, say Tattvam, it is absolute nature of myself, once I understood, Tasmin Drushti, having knowledge of that, Nivartate, all other things are destroyed. The ignorance gets destroyed because it is Bhranti, it is incorrect knowledge. What is absolute knowledge dismisses the relative knowledge as makes it only a relative and not absolute. And therefore, here I take that example and says, now I take that whatever I see is only Bhranti, means it's only a projection, and it doesn't dismiss, as in the case of a snake rope example. In the case of snake rope example, when I see it is a snake, and when I think it is a snake, and once I put a light on it and I discover it is a rope, and when I discover the rope, there will never be a snake again, because I know it is a rope. So knowledge of the rope, knowledge of the absolute truth, what is there, completely dismiss the ignorance of snake. But that ignorance of the snake is, once it is removed, but snake is also gone, because the snake is subjective projection. It is in my mind, therefore my mind is relieved of that. So I have the knowledge in my mind, it is only a rope, and therefore there will never be a snake. And therefore that subjective projections are eliminated by the knowledge of what the object is. In the case of the other examples, like for example mirage water, when I say there is a water there, but what is there is only a sand and a reflection of the light on the sand. And once I understood that there is no water, and what's only a reflection, it's in fact is a dry sand, there is no water, sand is not wet even. And once I understood, then even though I have understood that there is no water, I can still see mirage water, but now I know that it's only Bhranti. The absolute truth is, indeed, it is dry sand there. It's only a reflection. And the mirage water is an objective projection, whereas the snake is a subjective projection. So this adhyasa, a superimposition, has to be understood, because a lot of criticism is there, thinking that once I become a jnani, then I don't see the world anymore, and that should be the case. In which case, there will not be any jnani left over for me to teach or for us to learn also, because once a jnani has realized, he doesn't see the world, and there is no teacher and they taught. And this is one of the criticisms of Advaita by the Dvaita and Visishta Advaita. But the fact of the matter is, there are two types of adhyasa. One is the subjective, another is the objective. The subjective, the adhyasa means the error of superimposition. The subjective adhyasa, like a snake projecting on the rope, goes away once the knowledge takes place. That gets eliminated. Whereas for the point of objective projections, the adhyasa is, even after the knowledge takes place, the projection can continue, but I have no more notion that what I see is real. Just as I understood there is no really mirage water, then even though I see mirage water, I already understood there is no water there. So that is the objective adhyasa. So same way, the whole world becomes objective adhyasa. The rope is an objective adhyasa. Same way, the whole world of plurality is objective. So even though I know that I am all-pervading absolute consciousness and the substratum for the whole universe itself, yet I can still see the plurality, because there is a mind, body, mind and intellect still there available. So the plurality is still there. The vision of plurality will go on, since it's an objective projection. And that does not mean a knowledgeable person sees the plurality, but he has no more notion that plurality is reality. That as ignorance that it is real is dismissed. Whereas for a Jivanmukta, the subjective projections are gone. Just as the snake is gone permanently, in the same way, his notion that I am this, I am this, I am this, and by the notions and also that notion generated problems, all the problems will go away. He does not have any problems with related to at the body level, mind level or the intellect level. And he sees the world of plurality, and he has no more notion that plurality is reality. Okay, let's do 46. Tattvasvarupānubhavāt utpannam jnanamanjasa aham amiti cha jnanam bādhate digbrahmadhivat together. Tattvasvarupānubhavāt utpannam jnanamanjasa aham ameti cha jnanam bādhate digbrahmadhivat. So tattvasvarupa anubhavat. So once tattvasvarupam means that once I have understood the nature of the reality, anubhavat means is once I have experience of my true nature or the absolute nature of the truth or this tattvam, the nature of the truth, once I understood, so here anubhavam is used as an experience, but in Vedanta, in Advaita Vedanta, anubhavam means actually the knowledge of my true nature. Once I understood that, because experience, as we discussed before, any experience is only part of the triad: experiencer, experience and experiencing. So it is not an experience as in any other experience, but it is an understanding, which I call it experience. So tattva swarup anubhavat, by clear understanding of my true nature, utpannam jnanamanjasa, that knowledge that rises spontaneously, immediately. It's called, there is no medium. Medium is the indirect means of knowledge. So for example, say pratyaksham is direct perception. I see a watch, it's immediate. As soon as I open my eyes, and if there is a watch and my eyes are functioning and the mind is there, I see immediately that there is a watch there. I see as soon as I open my eyes, I see the world around me. That is direct and immediate. Whereas Anumana and other means of knowledge are not immediate knowledge, they are indirect knowledge. They are medium involved. That means I have to think, and what is there? I see snow, I see smoke there and a distant hill, and say there is a fire there. So how did I come? I am not seeing the fire, I am only seeing the snake. Now I had to contemplate that the fire and the smoke have what you call avinava sambandha, the vyapti jnanam, a concomitant relation between the hetu, the cause that I am seeing, the smoke, and sadhyam, the deduction that I see, there is a fire there. There is relation between the smoke and the fire has been established in the past through a drishtanta. Like whenever there is a fire, I see, whenever there is a smoke, I see a fire. So therefore, wherever there is a smoke, there has to be fire. This is called vyapti jnanam, a concomitant relation that has to be available for me to deduce that when I see a smoke in a distant hill, that there is a fire there. So this is a meditative process, an inferential process that involves a prior knowledge and utilization of that in order for me to deduce. So all scientific investigations involve this kind of anumana, where I see them data, or I perform an experiment in a controlled experiment, I get a result. So that is the example that I see, just like the smoke. So when I see it, then I had to deduce what is the cause for it, which I don't see directly. And therefore, the cause has to be deduced by either a deductive reasoning or an inductive reasoning. And that's what is called anumana. So for that, there is a medium is required, a contemplation is required, a memory and analysis is required in order to arrive at the truth behind. Whereas this is direct and immediate. I don't have to sit and contemplate, I am there, I am there, I am there, or aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. It's not a meditation, it's not something to make it self-revealing. It is because once the ignorance is removed, it says utpannam jnanam anjasa. Anjasa means immediately or instantly the knowledge rises once the ignorance is removed. Aham mameti cha ajnanam. And what is that ajnanam? Bhadati. So this gets eliminated. What happens now in the process? Aham is ahankara, I am this. Mama is, this is mine. Cha ajnanam, ajnana janitam. This is born out of ajnanam, ignorance. It is bhadate. It gets eliminated, just like dig brahmadivatu. Just as the notion that dig is the directions. So when I am lost directions and say where is east, what is south, what is north, and so on, if I am all confused, that once I look at it, the sunrise, then I know that is the east, because I know that sunrise is in the east, from which I can deduce all other directions. So once the knowledge rises, once the sun rises in the east, then I know it is the east. So all directions are all revealed in the same way. Once the knowledge arises in my mind, then I have understood what is my nature. That is tattva swarupam. And aham mama, the ahankara and the mamakara. I am this notion, and this is mine, this is my notion, which are generated due to ajnanam, which is generated due to the ignorance, gets bhadate, gets destroyed. So with this, we will stop here. And we will do Purnamada Purnamidam. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. We are in 46. 40 to 46. Atmabodha. Or 41 to 46. Done?
Today is the 22nd, right? 23rd.
Closed, right?
Sadaji, you might want to go and take these guys outside. There are cars parked by your neighbor, Mercedes cars. And they should have told these guys. They didn't tell the neighbors to move the cars.
Oh, they need to remove the car?
If they don't move the cars, something falls on their cars.
Oh. So this fellow has to be careful.